Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aliyah. Thank you so much for stopping by if you're new here. So in today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to create a shift dress right here, like you can see in the image. So the measurements we're going to be using for this tutorial is we'll need our bust, we'll need our waist, we'll need our hip, our shoulder to waist, our shoulder to bust, and then the dress length. So if there are any measurements we'll need, I'll definitely say it later on in the tutorial, okay? So I went ahead to get my 3 yards Ankara print, like you can see here. This is about 3 yards of fabric, and then I got pieces of satin from my fabrics too. So I'll be using this. It's less than a yard because we'll be using it for just a little part on the dress, okay? So I also went ahead to get my chalks and then my curves and rulers and all that, okay? So make sure you have all these before you go ahead and lay out your fabric and cut, okay? So in order to lay our fabric, our Ankara fabric, we're going to be folding it to the widest part of our body. So the widest part of my body is my hips. So my hips is about 44 inches. So 44 divided by 4 inches is about 11 inches, okay? So I'll be adding 2.5 inch allowance to my dress so that it will be very loose, okay? So 11 plus 2.5 inch, that will give you about 13.5 inches, right? So I'm going to be opening this up to 13.5 inches. So I'm just gonna go ahead to do that, to lay it, and then draw out my measurement, and then I'll show you how it looks like. So this is it right here. I went ahead to mark my measurement on my fabric. So this is the base right here. This is where I'm going to be marking my neckline and all that. I went ahead to draw out my bust line, my waist, and then my hip. And on the bust line, I came up 2 inches for my chest line here. It's just gonna guide us to get our armhole around there. So I also went ahead to mark my hip line. Then I'll be maintaining this fabric length for my dress length. So whatever your dress length is, just go ahead and mark it down on your fabric, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be working on the neckline. So for the back neckline, I'm going to be using 3.5 by 1 inch, and for the front neckline I'll be going in by 3.5 too, okay? So mark both necklines here, then just go ahead and use your curves to connect the points together. So you can also go ahead and use 3 inches at this point instead of 3.5, depending on how wide you want your neckline to be, okay? So just make sure you do that. So the reason why I'm drawing these 2 necklines is we're going to be cutting out our back neckline first, then we'll cut it on another piece before we go ahead to cut out our front line for one of our pieces, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be measuring 4 inches inwards from my neckline here, going in about 4 inches or 4.5. Then I went down 1 inch from that point. So this is just my shoulder slope right here. So I'm just gonna go ahead to connect the points together. Make sure you have about 4 inches at that point. And I'm just going to draw it straight to my chest line. So this is how it's gonna look like. So it's time for putting in our measurements. So my bust divided by 4 is about 9 inches. I'm going to be placing it on the chest line here. This is 9 inch. And remember I said we're going to be adding 2.5 inches to our dress. So just make sure you add that allowance right here, okay? So 2.5 inches here because the dress is a loose dress, okay? So next thing I'm going to put is my waist. My waist divided by 4 is 7.25. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark my 7.25 around here. And for my hip divided by 4 is about 11. So mind you, add 2.5 to your waist here, okay? So after marking the 7.25, I went ahead to mark 2.5 here. So you do that same thing for the hip, 11 inches for me, plus 2.5 inch allowance, okay? So when you're done, just go ahead and use your curves to join all the points together. So I'm done connecting the points together from my chest line to my waist all the way to the hip. And then for the hem, that's around here. You can just go ahead and use the hip measurement for this hem too, okay? So from this part, just mark the hip measurement and then draw a straight line down. Or for me, what I do is I just subtract 1 inch from the hip line, then I mark it at this point, okay? So my hip is 11. So 11 minus 1 is 10 inches plus my 2.5 inch allowance, okay? Then you're going to use your curves to join the points together. So it's going to look like this. at the hem, so it won't look straight like that. So you can also choose to do it this way if you want to. So I'm just gonna go ahead to draw my armhole at this point. So just take your curves. So for the front armhole, we're going to be dividing this into two. This is 7 inches, so 3.5 at this point. Then you're going in by 1/2 inch. That's for the front, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead to use my curves to join the points together. So after drawing the armhole, this is how it's gonna look like for the front. I'm just gonna go ahead to add my 1/2 inch around here, then I'll cut out the dress, okay? I'm just gonna go ahead to cut it. Make sure that when you're cutting it, you cut it from the back neckline here, okay? So that it will just guide us to cut the other piece, like I said. So after cutting out the dress, I went ahead to fold my fabric into two again. Then I place the piece right here on it. So just make sure that you fold it in a way that there'll be enough space for the piece right here, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead to cut my second piece. So guys, this is the back I'm going to be cutting right now, okay? So for the back armhole and then the front armhole are different, okay? So what I'm going to do is, remember the line we drew all the way to the chest, just that line. We are coming now by 1/2 inch, then we'll blend it back into our armhole, okay? And that will be our back armhole. So just make sure you take your time and then blend it, okay? So if you are not good at using your hand, just go ahead and use your curve, and then you're good to go. So after cutting it, I'll just take away your piece, and then I'm going to be cutting my front neckline now. So make sure that you pick one of the piece like this. Separate it from the back piece, as you can see. So I'm just going to go ahead to cut out my front neckline. Okay, so this is how it's gonna look like. So for now, I'm going to put my dress pieces aside, and I'm going to go ahead and cut the my plain satin that I'm going to use for the center front, okay? Then I'll also cut out my patch pocket for the dress. So these are the pieces right here. This is for my pocket. So I went ahead to cut out 8 inches by 8 inches for this pocket, okay? So on this one, this is the strip going to be on the center front. I went ahead to cut it 4 inches for the width, and for the length, you're going to be using the length of your full front, okay? So my full front is about 43, so I went ahead to cut out 43 inches by 4 inches, okay? So whatever your front length is, go ahead and use that measurement for it. So now I'm just gonna go ahead to iron this gum stay or stiff. This is medium size, by the way, okay? On just the strip only, okay? So I'm going to do that, and I'll show you how it looks like. So I went ahead to press my strip with the stiff. So this is how it will look like. I also went ahead to fold in 1/2 inch side and side, okay? So make sure you just fold the sides 1/2 and 1/2 inch at this point. So on the pocket too, I also went ahead to fold it side and side, and then at the bottom part here, okay? So I'm going to be finishing the top part of my pocket right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to be folding it in twice at this point. So I'm going to fold it in twice, and then I'll go ahead and then sew it, since that side is going to be the opening, okay? So I've gone ahead to stitch my pocket right here. I also went ahead to finish the edges on the inside because it's a satin fabric I'm using and it frays a lot, okay? So you can also do that if you have an overlocking machine. Just overlock it so that it's very neat on the inside when you're done joining it to the dress, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking the front part of the dress. So you're going to be turning it to the right side, like so. Then we're going to take the long strip right here and then place it right in the middle of our dress, okay? So make sure that you find the middle of the dress and you go ahead and then arrange it. So I went ahead to fold mine into 2 equal halves and I pressed it to get that line there, okay? So I'm just going to be placing it directly at the middle. Make sure it's at the middle. So I'm going to be placing it like this. Then I'll take the pocket too. It's going to be at the right side of my dress, so I'll just be placing it somewhere around here. So with the pocket, you just place it where you think will be comfortable for you. So this is from my shoulder down. I measured about 23 inches, so this is just fine for me, okay? So I'm going to be pinning this two on my fabric. Then I'll go ahead and sew the side of this, side and side, okay? I'll sew very close to the edge here. Then I'll do the same thing for the pocket. So just sew from here all the way to the other side, okay? So I'm just going to do that and I'll show you what to do next. So I'm done pinning and stitching my pocket and then my strip, like you can see. It's so neat. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be shaping the neckline. So if you look on the style we are working on, the neckline has some little V shape around here, okay? So that's exactly what we are going to be shaping right now. So just fold your fabric into 2 equal halves and make sure you pin the shoulders and then the sides together. After dividing your fabric into 2 equal halves, we're just going to go down on this neckline right here, the front neckline here. Go down about 1 inch. So this side depends on how deep you want that curve to be, okay? So I'm just going to use 1 inch for mine. So you can use 1.5 if you want it a bit deeper, or even up to 2 inches. So from this point, I'm just going to blend it back into my 1 inch mark. After marking it down, we're just going to be trimming that side in a bit. But mind you, when you're done, when you use 1 inch, it will end up opening about 1.5, okay? Because we're going to be using 1/2 inch to be to turn it in to finish the neckline, okay? So after you're done cutting out the neckline, we're just going to be cutting out the facing for the front and back neckline, okay? So just take your fabric piece or whatever pieces you have left of your fabric. We're going to fold it in. And then place our front piece like this on it. So I'm going to be leaving 3 inch from this point here. So I'll be coming up 3 inch on the fabric. Then I'm going to place the center front right on it, okay? So just pin it down. And then pin the rest to the fabric. So we're done pinning it down. Just go ahead and then draw the shape from the shoulder here and then the neckline. Make sure that the design on the neckline is the same thing you draw on the piece of fabric. So when you're done, just take out your fabric like so. So this is how it's gonna look like. So I'll be going in from this shoulder point. I'll be going in about 1.5 inches. And then for the bottom part, I'll just maintain my 3 inches. So we're going to be blending this 1 inch to the 3 inch at this point. You can use a curve if you want to. So this is just how our facing is going to look like, okay? So I'm just going to cut it out now. So after cutting out the front facing, I'm just going to go ahead to cut out the back too. So make sure that the way you cut out the front is the same way you're going to cut out the back, okay? So I'm just gonna do that. So guys, after I was done cutting my facing for the front and then the back, I went ahead to press my gum stay or stiff on it. It's same one I use for this strip too, so just the medium one. So I press it on both the front and back. So when I was done pressing it, I went ahead to finish the bottom part of my facing, like you can see. At this point, it's optional. You can always do it last, or when you're done sewing your dress, then you're going to finish all the raw edges and everything. You can just go ahead and then neaten that side too, okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to take the front part of our dress, like you can see, and then we'll take the facing, the front part of the facing, then we'll place it right side on right side, okay? So just place it, pin the middle, and then go ahead and pin the side and side. So when you're done pinning it like this, just go ahead and do the same thing to the back, okay? So after we are done pinning both front and back, we're just gonna go ahead to stitch our 1/2 inch throughout this portion here, okay? So measure your 1/2 inch at this point and then you go ahead and then stitch it. So I'm done stitching the facing to the front and the back side of my dress. So this is how it's looking like. I'm just gonna go ahead to snip in this side a bit so that it will be easy, very, very easy for our facing to turn to the wrong side, okay? And even trim it a bit out. So for the front part, I decided to go in 1 inch instead of the ½ inch at this point because I wanted it a bit deeper than how it was. So you can leave it like that if you want to, or if you want it a bit deeper, you can go in about 1 inch like I've done. Okay, so you can just leave the ½ inch, which is also fine. It will all give you that V shape at the neckline. So I'm just gonna go ahead to reduce the allowance there a bit, then I'll snip it in. Okay, so after you're done snipping it in, it's gonna be very easy for it to turn to the wrong side now. So after you're done turning it to the wrong side, make sure that you just press it down so that it lays flat and neat at that point. Okay, so that's just what I'm going to do right now. So I'm done pressing my facings to the fabric, but before I did that, I went ahead to top stitch the remaining allowance on the facing so that it will help me turn it easily. Okay, so when you turn it easily, it will lay inside the wrong side very well. So that's what I went ahead to do. So if you are already done pressing yours, it's fine. Just take it to the machine and then stitch the remaining allowance on the facing. Okay, then it will go in after you're done. So it's gonna look very neat like this. So make sure you top stitch it first. So then when you're top stitching it too, make sure it doesn't show on this side right here. It's only supposed to be on the facing, like you can see here. Okay, so I did that for the front part too. This is how it's also looking like. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll be joining my front and back pieces together, shoulder to shoulder and then side to side. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead to pin it down. So I'm done pinning the shoulders and then the side and side, like you can see. I went ahead to pin that side and then that side too, and then the both shoulders right here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to be marking my ½ inch on the shoulders right here. I'll sew ½ inch here and then on the other side, and I'll do the same thing for the side and side. Okay, so I'll be using ½ inch allowance to sew for both the shoulders and then the sides. So guys, I'm done joining my dress right now, the side and side, and then the shoulder, like you can see here. So the dress is joined together now at this point. So the next thing I'm going to work on is my sleeve area. I went ahead to increase my armhole a bit because it looked very small to me, and I want about 9 inch around here. Okay, so I went down about 1 inch, then I just adjusted it and blended it back into the armhole. Sorry. So I did that for the other side too. So I'm having about 9 inch right now. So I went ahead to cut out my sleeve. So I'll be using the plain fabric for the bottom part of my sleeve, and then the Ankara print for the top side of my sleeve. Okay, so the length of the sleeve depends on how long you want it to be on your shoulder. Okay, so when I join these two pieces together, my sleeve becomes about 7.5 inches long. Okay, like I said, if you want yours longer, just go ahead and then make it longer, but I want mine very short. That's why I decided to use 7.5 for it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up my sleeve like this, then I'll take the bottom part and then fold it into two. So I'll fold it into two like this, then I'll place it on the right side of my Ankara print, so right side on right side like so. Then I'm just going to pin it down all through to this point. Okay, so you pin it down all through to the other side. So I'm just going to do that. Make sure you fold it before you place it on your fabric and then sew your ½ inch. Okay, so on this part is your around arm you're going to use. So my around arm was about 13.5, so I just divided it by 2. I added about ½ inch ease to my sleeve plus 1 inch sewing allowance. Okay, so that's just what I went ahead to cut. So I'm just gonna go ahead to join these two parts together, then I'll sew it onto my dress. So I'm done attaching my sleeve to my dress. Look at how it looks like. So like I said, the plain fabric will be at the bottom part of my sleeve. If you're liking this video so far, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so it alerts you whenever I post a new video. Okay, so we're going to be working on the last part of our dress, which is the hem around here. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to be folding it in twice, then I'll go ahead and pin it down and then sew it. So you can fold it in half and then ½ inch again, or if you want it a bit smaller, you can do it a quarter and then a quarter again. Okay, so it depends on how you want to finish that side. So I'm just going to pin it all around my hem. So after we're done pinning all our hem, we're just going to take it to our machine and sew very close to the edge right here. Stitch it very close. Okay, And then that's all for our beautiful shift dress. So like you can see, it's so beautiful and very easy to make. If you're trying this out, do let me know in the comment section, okay? Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel for more contents like this. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a lovely day wherever you are. Bye.